Welcome to our Back to Life podcast. This is episode 96. So we are getting close to episode 100. I am your host, Danny Bader, and glad that you are here. You know, I get excited for all of the guests that we have on this podcast, and today is certainly no exception. I'm sure in your business life, you have met some people that have become just wonderful friends. For me, almost like brothers. And this guy is one of them. His name is Tom Tabler. I met him at least 10 or 12 years ago when he and I were sitting on a bus going to dinner as part of a leadership conference at Marriott where he was a participant and I was one of the speakers. And when I got there, the woman who was running the conference, who I knew, she said, "You've got to meet this guy, Tom. You and him have so much in common." And we sure do. And I think it really comes down to a couple things. It comes down to our faith, our love of our family and our friends, and our deep interest in leadership, and also having that proverbial passion for life with what I call living with a radical reverence. So sit back, take some notes, and enjoy my conversation with my dear friend, Tom Tabler.
Welcome to the Back to Life podcast with your host, Danny Bader. In every episode, you'll hear real stories about real transformations from real life. Thank you for joining us today.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to our Back to Life podcast. As you heard in my intro, I am with my dear friend and my brother, Tom Tabler. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Danny. Thanks for having me. Such a
Yes.
blessing to be here with you. Yes. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, I looked into my Outlook and I looked under my people, my contacts, and I looked up Tom Tabler because I'm thinking, how long have we known one another? And the email that was in our initial contact was from 2016. So we've got at least 10 years there, right?
Feels like 40 years, Danny. I mean,
Feels like
and I say that because I feel like I've known you my whole life, really.
Yes. Yes.
Which is
Yeah,
special.
me too. So listen, you are retiring soon. We'll get to that. You have been with Marriott, I don't know what, 34, 36, 38 years. How long have you been with Marriott?
36 years. Yes. Thank you. Yes. In great career. Yes. Wonderful company, great culture. As you know, I know you work with Marriott International all the time, but so I'm preaching the choir on that one. But yeah.
So you
30s.
started, how old were you? 20 what?
Yeah, I was 22 when I started. Yes. And
you started as a GM, right? No.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, they start everybody as a GM at 22 for
Yeah,
sure.
right.
Running big hotels.
Tell us about your journey there a little bit when you started at
I'll make it.
22 and
Thanks.
what were you
I'll
thinking?
make it brief. Yeah, I was surrounded in my former job. I worked for my dad's company out of college, and I'll make this super brief, but I worked with a lot of people in the hotel industry, and I thought that it was some kind of like, I don't want to say cult because that would not be right, but I thought they were all brainwashed because everybody I came in contact with loved what they did. And at the time I did not. I loved my dad. I loved the company, but long story short. So I was surrounded by people from Marriott, Hyatt, and Hilton, and Westin, and in this company as we worked through sports merchandising and marketing and Super Bowl and all this stuff, right? And I'm like, I want to love my job. I want to love what I do every single day. And the Marriott people just seemed extra special that I met. You know, they were just all, enthusiastic, optimistic, vibrant, and they love the company. They love the culture. And I'm like, I need something like that in my life. And I kind of told my dad, I'm going to go this direction, and ended up starting here, believe it or not, at my current property at the San Diego Marriott Marquis as a front desk clerk. And I said, I'm going to start at the bottom and work my way up, or start, entry level, I should say. And I have to pinch myself, Danny, because to come full circle after 36 years and start as a front desk clerk and now, lead this great property and retire from this great property, it's awe-inspiring to me. I mean, it is
an
special.
amazing story when you think about it. And so tell me, when you got in there at 22, because you and I have talked about this before, there's so many people that kind of just go through the motions in life. They're stuck in what you and I call that functional fog. And so much of it's connected, Tom, to their work, right? Because it kind of consumes so much of their focus and their time. What was it like when you got into Marriott? Did you know that this is it? Or did you have any moments where you're like, okay, this is it. I'm going for GM. I'm going to have a career with Marriott. Any key instances or any key mentors that you had?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Probably we don't have enough time today to list all my mentors along the way and all the people that helped me along the way.
Right.
But, you know, to answer your question, I knew right away. I knew when I joined and as I progressed, and it kept on reinforcing the fact that I was with the right company in the
Hmm.
right culture, surrounded by the right people. I mean, I never had anybody that I reported to that wasn't a pretty stellar leader or manager, which is that it's
Yeah.
probably hard to say in life after 38 years, but I
Hmm.
didn't have, I mean, yeah, you always take all the good attributes from, the leaders that you learn from, and maybe, you put aside the other ones that were not the best, but
Sure.
you learn from people every single day, even people that
Hmm.
you work with or people that work for you or with you. So, yeah, I mean, I knew, and I didn't know GM. I would have thought that would be a pipe dream for sure.
Hmm.
Um, but I knew, I wanted to get through operations, maybe move up through operations, and then I knew
Hmm.
sales and marketing was kind of my passion and what was in my DNA, and so I, pursued that path. So continued
Yeah.
on through operations, moved over to sales and marketing, and then I don't want to go through my whole career because I've
No,
16 different
no.
properties in the 36 years and a lot of different disciplines, but it's been a dream. And
Yeah.
as I start easing to retirement, I think right away it's like, wow, I've been so blessed, to be working with so many people and so many,
Hmm.
not so many people, so many incredible people that have helped me along the way.
Right.
But hopefully I did some of that too, as you more
Oh, yeah.
from being mentored to being a mentor, right?
Yeah.
To
Yeah.
others.
Oh, you
Yeah.
sure did. You sure did. Lisa,
No.
my wife Lisa. I know your wife Andrea, and
Yeah.
and the kids we
Yeah.
kind of know through our conversations. And Lisa
Sure.
is a nurse now, 41 years, and she always wanted to be, and she knew that. So what would you say to somebody out there, maybe a young person listening right now, or maybe a parent like you and me, where somebody that's not satisfied with their career and the job or the boss and they want to leave? How would you kind of coach them up? What would you offer them to think about?
Yeah, good question. I would say that it depends on how long they felt that way. If they've
Hmm.
kind of been feeling that way for some time, I would say to look somewhere else. Life's too short, right? We all know that
Hmm.
to be stuck or to
Hmm.
be satisfied with a job that is not satisfying you, right?
Right.
As a person or a leader. So listen, you can try to, always look for the good or find the good or, um, and a lot of times people will say, well, it's because of my leader or my boss or something along those
Hmm.
lines. And that can be a difficult situation, right?
Mm.
But I would so is it one person or is it the job that you're in or is it, that it's just not fitting your passion? Because boy,
Hmm.
I try to coach a lot of my associates, through the years and they'll ask me that. It's like, oh, what discipline should I go to next? How do I climb the ladder? Or how do I reach? I say same thing, soar with your strengths. What are you passionate about? What do you want to do? Because therefore, whatever that is, I know it's very cliche, you'll excel at that, whatever
Yeah.
that may be. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I
That's
think that's great insight. I always say to people, it's a combination of what you do and who you do it with. So as you
true.
spoke about there, you kind of separate that. Well, I love my job, but I'm really not, enamored with my boss. Or, I like the people that I work with, but I'm not necessarily enamored with what I do. So it always comes back to your strengths. So, and I think for younger people, especially in this age, people like you and people like Lisa, they're an exception now that go into one company and one industry and stay there for, 30 or 40 years, especially with the landscape. So I also think for younger people out there that where you are right now just might not be your last stop, so take away the relationships and what you've learned from there. And as you said, just kind of continue on and move that way. You've moved your family quite a bit over these last 36 years, right? What was that
Mhm.
like? How did that connect with, gosh, here's my career and here's a great opportunity and I'm moving Andrea and the boys again. What was that all about?
Yeah,
How'd you
it
manage?
was, I mean, I think it was tough at times, but it was good overall, right? It brought us
Mm-hmm.
closer as a family sometimes because when you don't have friends and family maybe in the same town and you move or whatever, it's like, okay, you're gonna continue to bond with your family and rely on them. But
Mm-hmm.
as kids being younger, tough, right? Changing schools and that kind of stuff
Mm-hmm.
and leaving some friends behind and us leaving friends behind too. But I was very fortunate, or I think I helped orchestrate this a little bit. Because you have decisions and you have choices too. You don't have to always do this or do that. But Marriott was growing big, early in that time frame, and you were expected to move to the next, position without maybe even saying, no, I don't really want to do that. Now times have changed a little bit. It was just
Mhm.
kind of like natural progression where it's like, yep, this is the next position. And it just happens to be in Austin or Denver or somewhere else. But
Mhm.
I would answer it this way overall. When we got to San Antonio, my kids were in, grade school, and we just decided that we found a great Christian school for them that they attended, and we loved the school. Andrea ended up being on staff. I'll make this quick, but
Mhm.
we said we're not going to pull them out. We're not going to pull them out of this school, and we're not going to pull them out of San Antonio. So the joke was, I did every job possible within Marriott with in San Antonio or Austin because that was commutable.
Right,
And
right, right.
whether it was a regional role or whether it was just different roles, I probably sacrificed, some
Yeah.
roles, as far as climbing the corporate ladder, so to speak. But it was the right
Yeah.
decision for the family. So they ended up graduating from that Christian school, and then went on
Mhm.
to college and stuff. So
Yeah.
that helped a lot. We did move them sometimes in the early years, but after we got to that area, we said, no, this is where we're staying, and
Yeah.
that'll
Yeah.
move it around and do some things and make it work. So yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a great testament to you. And I've certainly talked a lot about, with your team, we've done the values exercise. And, it's interesting. I spoke on Friday to a high school audience of about 700 students. So, you're trying to talk to them about what are your values and make decisions based on them. But yours is a great example, right? You certainly valued career, and you certainly valued, financial moving up in career, and you valued your family. So in those decisions, anybody listening, when you're having those tough decisions, you really got to sit, pen and paper, whatever it might be, and figure out, okay, what are the values at play in this
Sure.
decision right now? And then typically, if you sit still and let the spirit show up, one of them is going to rise to the top, and then you'll have that intuition. I saw
Yeah.
once where you said you've certainly led teams to wonderful results, right? Financial results and results on the property, but all the time you've said it's more about the people. And you talked once about, I think you're out in Desert Springs and the engagement scores there, and you were just so proud of the scores that your associates and your leaders were getting. How important are the people from your leadership perspective to the revenue and the results that the business puts on top of you and lays out there for you?
Yeah, I will quote this for the rest of my life, whether I'm retired or not. But Mr. Marriott started this, but for 100 years,
Hmm.
it's take care of your associates, they'll take care of the guests, and the guests will come back. And you never deviate from that. We put
Hmm.
people first in all things, and I learned that day one, joining this company. So when that happens, and again, this is a humble brag a little bit, but whether it's
Sure.
Desert Springs or here at the Marquee or even at other properties, the hotels that I've been fortunate enough to work at or lead, we've had like one of the best or some of the top associate opinion surveys or engagement scores is what we call it now. And there's
Sure.
nothing more important than that because all things will flow from there, Annie. When you have the right people and they're highly engaged and they're
Hmm.
led well and that they're taken care of, right? Because we take care of each
Hmm.
I preach that all the time. It's not just, oh, the management team takes care of the associates. We all look out for one another. And
Hmm.
that's such an important thing to drive home for me. We
Yeah.
call it family, we say that we're a family and we mean it. You got to walk the
Mhm.
talk. If you don't walk the talk, then it's just,
Yeah.
it was from the heart, sincere. And my leadership team believes in all of that as well, whether it was here or Desert Springs. And from that comes great results. I mean, people know they don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. I don't want to give a bunch of
That's it.
cliches, but when
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
there and truly engaging with your associates and that everybody knows, yes, the mission is this and the vision is that, but
Hmm.
really job number one is let's look out for
Hmm.
one another, let's respect one
Hmm.
another, let's take care of one another, let's
Yeah.
promote one another when the opportunity, let's recognize each other, all of the it's easy. It's an easy platform to follow. Yeah, then the financials come, then the guest
Sure.
satisfaction scores come, then the event satisfaction scores come, and it just all flows from you know
Everything is
having great
good. Yeah.
associates and hiring great associates and training them well, holding them accountable, but also the recognition and the rewards. But the caring is the most important part. It really, and
Yeah.
genuine from the heart. I say this, I'm going to take one more second to, because in
Keep
every
going, because
orientation
I
of
was
this
going to ask the
business,
question, and I don't
no,
think I meant
listen,
to ask
for
it.
years,
Go.
listen, I say this in every orientation, and I've probably told you this before, and I'm sure I stole it from, well, I stole it from Mr. Marriott first, but in every orientation, I'll go in and introduce myself and everything to our new associates, and I'll say you have to possess, one thing, really two things. It's the same thing. So we'll go around the room and guess what they are, and people always give great answers. There's no wrong answer to this question
Right.
per se, but it's kind of like where the rubber meets the road as you join this team, right? So
Right.
I tell them they have to have what Mr. Merritt calls a spirit to serve. Okay. And it comes from in here, right? It's not, we can't teach that. It's God given. It's one of those things, either you have it or you don't. And if you don't
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
spirit to serve others, you can't work here. We call it a heart for hospitality. If you do not have, that's why I point to my heart, right? When I'm talking
Yeah.
to them, if you don't have a heart for hospitality, you can't work here. And I say, you can work a
Mhm.
lot of other places. I'm not being disparaging by this, but not every place, you need to have a heart for hospitality. Like sometimes I'll say you can work at the DMV or you can work at the post office or other places. I'm sure those are wonderful organizations. And I'm not being, but it's like
Sure.
you cannot work here, and we
Yeah.
cannot teach you that, is the other thing I make sure that our associates know. You already have it. We're going to bring it out in you maybe a little bit more, and we're going to teach you more that
Mhm.
culture. But
Yeah.
that's who we're hiring. That's who we're hiring
Yeah.
for. So
It
sorry to be
really,
so long-winded with that.
no, that's cool. I love it. I love it. When you talk about that, that definition of love resonates with me. You've probably heard it before. It said, "Love is the condition in which the happiness of another person is essential to my own." So it's almost what you described, right? I really can't be happy, satisfied, fulfilled unless I'm really doing my best to support you. And while it's in the hospitality business, and we all get that, I think leaders listening now, you got to make sure that, as you said, you're really loving and you're appreciating your people. Because too often, especially now with all this AI stuff going on and people are going to lose jobs and all these things that we're hearing, I think it's very easy for leaders to get distracted and pulled away from the relationship. And, years ago when I was in corporate America, you couldn't cross the line, personal and professional and all. And, I think that's kind of bullshit. How does somebody really know that you care for them if you're not taking an interest outside of work, in their life outside of work, within the
Yeah.
certain parameters? You and I both get that. So I think any
Yeah.
leaders out
The
there, I
other
would,
thing I just want to say, I'm sorry,
yeah.
Danny, I didn't mean to
No,
interrupt you,
jump in,
but
man. This is,
no, I just wanted to say that this is such a simple thing too. You can just tell when people are quick to a smile,
mhm.
they have it. I mean, and that's
Yeah,
just so evident. I mean, it's just, you don't even have to say any words to each other. When people are quick to smile, it's like, okay, those are the people that you want working with you or for you
sure,
or together. Yeah, I mean
sure.
and I mean, again, maybe because we're getting older, Danny, and we quickly know, right? It's like,
Yes,
wow,
yes, yes.
this is a person I want to be around. This is a person that has it,
Sure,
right? The extra it factor.
sure.
So
And I
sorry,
think
but
the smile, no, I mean, this is perfect. You and I just riffing here.
yeah,
The smile too. I think I always say I don't need to know how the brain does what it does, because I don't know that I'm quite that intelligent. I just want to know what it does, right? Don't tell me how synapses and firing and all this stuff, but what does it do? And I think when we smile, I know that when we smile, something happens in our brain where we just go, okay, it's okay. It's either good or it's okay that we're struggling and we're going to move through it. So that's what I always tell people too. Just take a smile, because your brain then is thinking, wait a minute, why are we smiling? What's happening here? Things must be good. It really just settles us. And even as you said, in business where there's difficult times. So speaking of difficult times, what was one or two of the most difficult challenges of your beautiful journey called life?
yeah. I don't want to give a cliche answer, but it's just true. I mean, COVID was a very difficult time, and I'm sure you've heard that from so
Mm-hmm.
many different people and industries, and
Sure.
mainly because we didn't know, there was no manual on that. There's no SOP at the time for that.
Mm-hmm.
And you just, you lead with love through something
Mm-hmm.
like that as much as possible. But obviously, all of our hotels went through massive temporary layoffs, and we
Mm-hmm.
didn't know. I mean, at first we thought it was going to be short-lived, and then,
Mm-hmm.
it wasn't, and then it dragged on. And but we tried to stay in touch with all of our associates and would make the phone calls and touch base with them. Just to anything we knew, we tried to disseminate that information. We didn't want to put a bunch of false information out there, but there was a lot of there were more questions than answers at that part or that point in time. So although some mistakes were made, like I'll never forget my director of human resources and I said, we're going to meet with every single person face to face to explain what's going on. Well, at that point, it started to shrink how many people you could even meet with, and
mask
and
to
so
mask,
we had to
right?
shrink, we had to shrink the numbers, but we just felt like, but when it went from okay, we're going to try to meet at 100 at a time because we had 1,000 associates at Desert Springs, and anyways, pretty soon we could only have 10 people in the room or something like that, distance and all that. But we had a ton of me. It almost like wore us out to a frazzle, both of us. But we wanted that connection where they could ask as many questions as they needed and we could disseminate as much information. But it was a tough time to see that building empty and have all of our associates, gone for a period of time. But I'll tell you what, I think as a team, we were very resilient through that time because we cared about every one of our associates and we probably over communicated with all of them. But thanks for
and you certainly were resilient. Yep, you were. And I know, so many of our common friends, certainly Paige, our dear friend out in Scottsdale there.
Countless, all my friends, all of my, my brothers and sisters, as I call them, went through the same thing. And I'm not trying to make, so many people went through incredible difficulty, obviously.
Scott and Michael down the road now at Gaylord where they were. So here's the thing around resilience. You and your team were resilient. Resilience is the ability for us to move through difficult challenges, struggles, and setbacks. You as a leader, what have you come to understand that are 2 or 3 things, really tangible, Tom, that make us resilient people and resilient teams?
I think, I'll speak for my team. One thing we discuss a lot, which is kind of just our, I don't know, our belief, right? That we remind everybody that because we run these big buildings with a lot of people in them, right? And anything can happen at any time. Sometimes the number of people inside this building are more than a small city, right? We should never be surprised by anything that happens. I mean, I know it's hard to say, Danny. I mean, but anything could happen at any time. And we should be, our mindset should be ready for that. Like how to act, how to react, what to do, what to communicate, the processes, the procedures through all that. So I'm not saying that is like a great definition to being resilient, but if you have that mindset ahead of time, all of a sudden you don't have to be, none of us have an S on our chest. We think we do sometimes, the big S on our chest. But so if we're somewhat prepared if we go back to our wisdom and what we've learned, right? Because again, as you and I get older, it's the learning, knowledge, wisdom stage. Hopefully you and I are in the wisdom stage. I know you are. I won't put myself
about that.
I try to.
I think my kids may argue with that comment, and Lisa for sure, but I guess I'm gaining on it. Yeah,
so
go ahead.
You draw on times when it's like, well, I've been through this or I've been through that, and this is what I did. This is how I can perfect it. This is what I can do better. The other thing, and again, is just part of maybe being resilient, is to be self-aware. I mean, I know you do this. I do this every day. I probably replay, not being too critical of myself, but I replay how I did as a leader. And I kind of give myself a grade, right? Because I've had a lot of interactions, a lot of meetings, a lot of conference calls, and how did I do overall? Could I have done better? And self-awareness and self-assessment is important to that resilience, process. I know I'm not hitting that word right on the head, but it all is a byproduct to me to being a resilient person. And I think it's optimism too, because I love that word, because that's in my. We can talk about that if you want, the my 35. But
I want to.
Optimism, I think a lot of it's in your DNA a little bit and who you are and everything else. But listen, every problem is solvable, right? It may not be to perfection, but there's a solution to every problem in some way, some small way. So if you have that type of optimistic outlook that we are going to solve this and get through this and handle it, whether it's in your family or your work or you being a leader. I think that's something important to have in your toolbox, right? That
Oh,
if you go
absolutely.
into it knowing that you're gonna solve the problem or help solve the problem and be resilient and count on the people that know what they're doing, that's a big part of being resilient as well, in my book, anyways.
Yeah.
That
No,
that
I
would
think
be
it is.
my recipe. Yes. A lot of
Yeah,
it's a
I think
mindset.
it.
You talk about mindset all
No,
the time, Danny. So
that's why I've
mindset
been.
is so important. Yeah.
That's why I've been waiting to talk to you. Yeah, you and I talk about that. So I think it's really cool where you all have the mindset that said, don't be surprised by anything. We got 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 people in this building right now, and they're all human beings who could be sober, they could be drunk, they could be struggling, they could be. So let's not be surprised by anything that happens. I think that's really good. And then optimism, as you talk about, is really just seeing the other side, right? It's kind of like that vision that you and I have worked with over the years. Let me see myself. It doesn't discount the brutal facts of the situation, right? Right
Yeah.
now, life kind of sucks, what we're dealing with, and let's see ourselves through to the other side. So I think that's really cool. So, yeah, let's get into, you and I, we know I have something called a 35 where I talk with people and leaders and say the most important 35 minutes of your week are the first 5 of each of the 7 days. So there's 35. And what I try to do is get people to come up with an acronym or a series of letters, abbreviation for words that can really put them into a good frame of mind as their feet hit the floor or whatever. So share with me, what's your 35, Tom? Share with us.
Well, I stole it from you, Danny, from one of your books, a radical reference from your life. The one, well, I see you and the people on these podcasts can't see it, but yeah. So and I probably had them, but I didn't have a full acronym. But I love FORT, which is mine, which is, and I'll let you explain what my 35 is, unless you want me to. But it's faith, optimism, which we just talked about, right? Resilience, which we just talked about. Funny how these subjects keep on coming up, and thankfulness,
Yeah.
which is, I don't know who I'm stealing that from other than your book, but that resonated so well with me that it's mine, and I've claimed it, and I tell everybody about it as well. I know we talked about it a little bit.
So in the morning when you wake up then, right, when your eyes and you start to transition out of sleep,
Yeah.
and you think, okay, Fort, what do you do? Do you just breathe? Do you kind of work through those? What's the process?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. So, I mean, first of all, I do have faith. I'm a Christian man, and my faith is super important to me. So I start with prayer, right, every day. And that's the faith, whether I'm praying for my team, my family, the day, just being thankful, to our creator as well. And the optimistic part, I don't want to say it's in my DNA because but that's the only way. I mean, and I say this very humbly, but I'm an eternal optimist. I can't help it. I don't know. I mean,
that's why I love you, brother.
And the resilience piece, through thick and thin, or through good times and bad. I mean, that's so important to be part of your toolkit as well. So I kind of measure, okay, hey, I have a lot on my plate today, and how am I going to work through all that and be resilient, right? And keep it in the right context, because we can get spun so quick. Any of us, doesn't matter what you're doing in life or what your occupation is, you can get spun over anything. So having that resilience and keeping it, in the proper context and proper priority is probably the better way to say it. And then thankfulness. And that's one I continue to learn, Danny, is gratitude, for everything. I mean, we can be grateful for it all, good times and bad, right? Because the bad times, teach us and help us get through things, right? And it's gonna happen. This side of heaven, I always say, stuff's gonna happen, right? So the thankfulness, I think I still need to work on that, on the gratitude part. But thanks for asking me that. It's important. What can I ask yours real quick?
Yeah.
I know what they are, but I want to ask them anyways.
No, I'll give it to you. And let me just say to the audience, so if you want to do this exercise, Tom has four letters. Mine happen to be 4 letters. It doesn't have to be 4 letters. It can be a word. It can be 3 letters, or whatever it is, something that just kind of gets you focused for the morning. And as you spoke, I've done this with many people in the workshops, And the most popular ones, as you can imagine, that show up are family, gratitude and thankfulness, and faith or spirituality. They're the ones that really show up. And I think optimism, mindset, something in that world.
Yep.
So mine is SVMA. So it's spirit, like you. Let me just connect right now and realize that God is within all of us.
Mhm.
So let me let that lay the foundation for as soon as I get ready to roll. The V is for vision, right? Which says, okay, what am I really creating for myself and my family? Wait, what do I need to bring into existence here? And then M is mindset. So let me just make sure I don't have any crappy thoughts rattling around up here today, any judgment or any of those kinds, any fear, any anger. And then A is action. So well,
Yeah.
what must I do today? What are 3, 4, 5 actions that I need to take today? So that
Yeah.
gets me pretty grounded. So as
Doesn't
we
that
kind of
center you
move
though?
towards the,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
go
Go ahead.
ahead.
Sorry.
No,
No, I
no,
was
no,
gonna say,
go, man.
doesn't that center you though? I mean,
Yeah,
as far as like if you spend the first 5 minutes of the day
yeah,
with your 4 letters, I mean, all of a
yeah,
sudden it's like it sets you up for
yeah.
success. I mean, it's because
It
stuff's gonna
really,
happen, right?
yeah,
Anyway.
it really does
All right.
that. And you and I've talked, and there's
Yeah.
probably my tree of life journal, which is,
Amen, brother.
as we're getting ready to move, and Lisa said we got to purge a little bit, and I looked in the drawer of my chest of drawers here in the office, and I must have 11 journals in there dating back to 2007. And
Yeah.
yeah, they're not going anywhere. I'm not purging them at all.
Awesome.
So no, yeah. So for the other thing I do in the morning, you and I have talked about this before. My brother-in-law Bobby passed of ALS. ALS. He was a wonderful,
Yes.
wonderful guy. One of my best
Wait,
friends, a man strong in faith. And I remember when we would put him to bed towards the end, he would always want us to hold his legs, and he couldn't use much of his arms, and he would push up until his head hit the headboard. You've heard me tell this story.
mm,
And because that way he was all the way back in the bed, and when it was raised, he was more sitting up straight, which helped him breathe, right? Because ALS attacks your respiratory. And one day he was just dead 4 years on May 25th. And one day in March, before the May when he passed, I was laying in bed and I was feeling really crappy. I was mad at Lisa for something. Something happened in business. I was like blaming the world. I was in the valley of the victim. And I thought of Bobby, and I leaned back and I just touched the headboard, and everything shifted. It was as if that little voice said, Danny, come on, man, shake it off, get out of bed, and deal with what you got to deal with. And I'm telling you, Tom, it's been 4 years. So let's do the math. 1,400 days. I'll
mhm.
bet I've touched that headboard 98% of the days. And sometimes now I hit it before I go to sleep just to kind of center me.
Amen. Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
amen
great.
is right. Yeah. So as we wrap up now, and this is what I wanted to get to, and you mentioned it now, you and I think what really brought us together is the fact that we're men of faith. We believe Jesus is who he was. One of my
Yeah.
mantras every day is I live Jesus's message as best I can. Some of the self-talk that I have. So tell us, the audience, about your faith. When did it start? How important is it to you? How do you
Wow.
practice it? How does it
Yeah.
weave into leadership?
Yeah. It started when I was
That's about
probably.
another hour right there.
Yeah, yeah, no, I'm gonna make this quick. I'm gonna give all the glory to God first of all, but
Right on.
yeah, first and foremost. But my grandmother was the matriarch of our family, and boy, she would tell anybody that she met about Jesus. I mean, with a big smile, big Italian smile, and
Hmm.
all the warmth and sincerity in the world from the heart, right? Not
Hmm.
not blasting it out of people, but yeah, she was going to make it known that this is the most important thing in this world. And yeah, so, we grew up in church a little bit in and out. My parents got divorced at a pretty early age. And, so my grandmother was in the house a lot because my mom went back to work and, single mom. And, my dad was across the country, great dad, but he was 3,000 miles away. But anyways, I mean, we just went to this place called Calvary Chapel in Santa Ana, California. And boy, what an incredible experience. And speakers from all over the world would come there, and men of faith and women of faith. And yeah, that's where, kind of all started. But I mean, that's a long story to say. It's a journey, right?
Yeah.
Your faith is a journey. And Andrea, I made it known before I got married that, I'm not going to get married to anybody that doesn't I'm only going to get married to a person that shares my faith. And
Yeah.
no pressure though, whatsoever. And on, with the kids. And it's just it's a little bit of a legacy, but we think we control that and can influence that, and we can, yes, to a degree, but really, and we're surrounded by people, and a lot of I'm gonna give you this, and then I'm gonna end with this because I could, my pastor a long time ago, a good friend of mine, still, he talks about prayer, care, share. So you pray for people first. You don't do anything else but pray for others, and then you care about them, right? Where they actually know from the heart, the genuineness. And then you share your faith after that. You don't mix it up. It's not ready, fire, aim, type of thing. It's you prayer, care, share. And I learned that a long time ago, and that's my journey, whether it's praying for my associates or praying for my family or praying for people that might not have my faith, that I would like to share my faith with them. And I just pray that, and then I try to genuinely care for people, which that's the time consuming part, right? The care part. But it's an investment, and it's a good investment, right? And then of course the sharing part. So I will end with that, but thank you for asking all that in my journey. But it's important. It's the number one priority. The other thing I say, a little cliche, but I sometimes say this in orientation, which so they know my priorities, right? But I stole from Vince Lombardi, but I do the hierarchy with my hands. I say God, family, Marriott, and the New England Patriots, which I'm a big New England Patriot fan. You're an Eagle fan, but I share my priority list.
Go Birds, go Birds.
I put God first. I put my family second. I put Marriott third, and then the New England Patriots. And I try not to jumble that too much, Danny. I try not to get that, but it happens. It happens, more than it should. But
sure,
I do my best to keep my priorities right.
It does, and I think you do a really good job. Having known you for as long as I've known you, I think you really do keep that hierarchy pretty good. And like you say, none of us are perfect. There's going to be times we kind of dance outside that a little bit, and the key is having, as you said, having the awareness to get back into it. You're a beautiful man.
No, right back at you, brother. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, everybody, listen, I am sure you picked up some wonderful words of wisdom, and you felt Tom's energy coming through the podcast. So regardless of where you are in life, we talked a lot about leadership. You're all leaders, because as Tom said, leadership's not so much about control, it's about influence. How can we influence people to become a better version of themselves? When I talked to the high schoolers the other day, I said, don't compare yourself to everybody on social media with bigger muscles or more tattoos or the lighting better on their selfie videos. I said, just compare yourself to two people, who you were yesterday, right? And who you want to grow into tomorrow. And, it really, you could just feel the energy of these young, beautiful 14, 15, 16-year-olds. You could kind of just feel that. So I encourage all of you, right? Think about who you were yesterday, and then think about our conversation, Tom's wisdom, and how can you take some of that and use it to even become a better version of yourself tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And thanks for listening. And always remember, everybody, to live with a radical reverence for your life, because this life ain't all there is. It's just all there is right now. Tom, I love you, brother. Thanks for joining our Back to Life podcast.
Thank you for watching. Please consider liking, subscribing, and sharing the Back to Life podcast with your friends. And don't forget to join us in the next episode.